disadvantages. How to plan and write IELTS advantages and disadvantages essay. So question for IELTS advantage and disadvantages essay can be worded in several different ways. There is some typical words that might be used. They can ask it in this way: what are the advantages and disadvantages of, they'll say it. They can ask it, do you think advantage outweighs the disadvantage? They can ask you, discuss the advantages and disadvantages and give your opinion. So it is also common for synonym of advantage and disadvantage to be used, such as benefits and drawbacks. Okay, so whichever way it is asked, just know that it is advantage and disadvantage essay. So one of the examples. So one of the example is a lot of people in the world rely on tourism as a main source of income. Unfortunately, tourism can also be a source of problem if it is not well managed. What are the advantages and disadvantages of tourism in modern world? Do you think that the benefit of tourism outweighs its drawbacks? So it will be using this question to guide you. I will be using this question to guide you through the process of planning and writing an IELTS advantage and disadvantage essay later on in this lesson. Once you understand the process, practice a past question. Take your time at first and gradually speed up until you can plan and write an essay of at least 250 words in 40 minutes, which is allowed in the exam. The question, IELTS advantage and disadvantage essay question, fall into main categories. The questions that ask for your opinion, the questions that do not require you to state your opinion. The first part of question will always be a statement. You will then be asked to write about both the advantage and disadvantage of the idea stated. You may also be required to state your opinion. Here are two more sample questions for illustration. For the first one, you might give your opinion, but in the second one, you should not. So the first one says, small businesses are disappearing and being replaced by large multinational companies. Do the advantage of this outweighs the disadvantages? Now, they ask you a question, so that means they are asking you. So you have to, or you may not give your opinion. I mean, you must give your opinion because they asked you. It's just like if I meet you on the road, always the only way you can know if your opinion is sought is it a direct question to you? Okay, it's different if I say discuss, that, okay, I want you to talk about this, or write about, that I'm talking. It's more like I did not ask you directly. But if I meet you and say, discuss this particular, and I say it, I want you to talk about it. Have you heard about it? What do you think people, that's a general knowledge. But if I meet you and say, do you think, then you should know, or do the advantage of this outweigh this, because I'm not asking you a question. Like, I want you to tell me what you feel. So in the second one, you must not, you mustn't give your opinion because your opinion wasn't sought. The essay structures. Now let's look at two simple structures you can use to write IELTS advantage and disadvantages essay. They are not the only possible structures, but are ones I recommend because they are easy to learn and will enable you to quickly plan and write a high-level essay. I'll explain later why I am giving you two slightly different structures. The first structure, that's essay structure 1. The essay structure 1, of course, you have paragraph 1, which is your introduction, where you paraphrase the question, outline the views and views stated in the statement, state your opinion. That's if your opinion was sought, was required. Then number 2 is the main body, paragraph 1, which usually you can talk about the advantage in this structure ideas. Paragraph 1, you can talk about advantage. which includes the topic statement, that's state. Who is that? Oh my God. The noise was terrible. The noise was horrible. Okay, I've muted everyone. So you outline the member, the one topic statement, sentence states the first advantage, explanation, give details explaining the advantage, example, give an example. Then main body two, the disadvantage, topic sentence, state one at disadvantage, then you explain, give detail, explain the disadvantage. That you have to explain the disadvantage in details, and then you give example. Okay, so the conclusion now, you summarize the key points and then you state your opinion. That's if your opinion was required. Then the second type or the second structure is because your introduction is still the same thing, you paraphrase the question, you outline main ideas, state your opinion. That's if it's required. Then secondly, the main body paragraph one, which is the advantage. As the topic sentence, you give an example, explanation, explain the benefits or advantages, then consequences, state the results. Then main body two, topic sentence, give an example, explanation, explain the problem or disadvantages, then consequences, state the result. Then conclusion is still the same thing. So these structures will give you a well-balanced essay with 4 paragraphs. One advantage and disadvantage or 2. Now, yes, the question will state advantages and disadvantages in the plural. That is more than one. However, it is acceptable to just write about one. This should give you an essay of just a minimum of 250 words. To write about 2 advantage and disadvantage will require you to write nearly 400 words, which are a lot to plan and write in 40 minutes, which is allowed. It is better to fully develop one advantage and one disadvantage than ending up with your second idea missing an explanation or an example because you run out of time. But you can write about 2 if you feel able to or more comfortable doing so. You know, all these things you just need to practice. By the time you keep practicing, you see yourself being able to plan and do that fast. So having said that, using essay structure 2, where you state with the examples, will enable you to easily add more than one advantage and disadvantage without having to write many more words. It will be more suitable for some questions than others. So bear this in mind when you are writing practice essay and try out both structures. I'm going to use essay structure 2 to show you step by step how to write an Ielts example, advantage and disadvantage essay. I'll also give you a model answer using essay structure 1 so that you can compare the 2. So how to plan IELTS advantage and disadvantage ACEs. The planning process only takes around 5 minutes, but it's essential as it will save you time overall and will result in a far better AC and thus high marks. There are 3 things you need to do. Analyze the question, generate ideas, and then identify vocabulary. The first one is analyze the question. Now, once you're giving your question, the first thing you need to do, like I said, for those that just joined, you didn't see what I shared earlier. Someone that went for an exam today and probably, okay, let me just say what happened. She went for an exam and the question was asking for independence, and then she mistakenly wrote independence instead. And she was asking if that's going to affect her mark. Now, this is one of the things you will actually avoid if you plan. If you take your time to plan, this is what you can actually avoid. Because you will try to, that's why I also advise when you get your work, try to analyze this question. Try, if possible, explain it to yourself in your own language, in your dialect, anyhow you understand it. Break it down for yourself so that you understand every part of it. Because sometimes our head doesn't work together with our eyes or our hand. Sometimes your head is saying a TWO2 and your hand is writing TOO. And by the time you later read and say, but I thought I was writing TWO. Yes, it used to happen. Sometimes your eye is seeing TOO. Your head is interpreting it as TWO. Those things happen, especially if you are in exam stage. It's called exam anxiety. You have that. There's always anxiety whenever you're faced with anything, interview, exam, no matter how prepared. Now, sometimes if you're really prepared, it tends to reduce, but there's still going to be some fragments of it. And how you can actually beat this so that it doesn't make you assume things. Because I noticed so well that we don't read. A lot of us don't. We are so lazy to read. I'm generalizing it, so don't feel hot. But I think from what what I've been doing so far, people have been meeting so far, I understand that that is one thing that scares people away. I've seen a lot of people, they'll say, if you can't answer me direct, then I can't do anything with you. I say, oh dear, because we have a long way to go and you really need to read. So if you can't read now, you think I will be pampering you. Oh, sorry, don't, okay, I will do it for you. I will send you voice. No, now you have to read. Because we are so tired, we don't like reading. So this is a time, you just 5 minutes won't take enough. That's why if you're practicing your writing or anything you're practicing, always take out 5 minutes from it. Of course, definitely except speaking and listening. Those ones I don't see how you can do that. But always take out some time out. They say you should do task 2 in 40 minutes. Take out 5 minutes. Okay, let it be your head that I'm supposed to do everything in 35 minutes. So start practicing like that. So that you save 5 minutes for miscellaneous. Anything can happen. Something can come up. And even she did that and then she saved 5 minutes. By the time she's done with all this and she start going through her work, she will understand this and quickly do the correction. So that is why you have to do. And analyzing your work helps you to know, okay, to ensure that your answer is fully, that you answer it fully. It's quick and easy to do. You can just you just need to identify 3 different types of words. Okay, understand the topic words. Now this is very important for those of us that start our writing with a general sentence. Yes, I will actually want everybody to start doing that, and by the end of this class you understand how to note what a particular thing is all about. So identify what is the topic word of this thing, that this particular question, this particular essay that I'm about to write, what is the topic word? Then the next thing you have to identify is other keywords. What are other keywords? Then instruction words. What is the instruction? These are the most important things you should note when you're analyzing your question. Okay, so topic words. What are topic words? Topic words are the ones that identify the general subject of the question and will be found in statement part of the question. just the one that tells you what the whole question is all about. And you will find this topic word in the sentence, in the statement, not on the question. Then here is the question we are going to be working on. So I've highlighted a topic word in blue. So if you read it, it said a lot of places in the world rely on tourism as a main source of income. Unfortunately, tourism can also be a source of problem if it is not well managed. So this is all about tourism. This is all about tourism, okay? So if I actually want to give a topic sentence of this, I'll not say, okay, it's going to be based on tourism. Okay, tourism is fast becoming maybe a major source of financial income. It's going to be on tourism because this is all about tourism. Nowadays, people has been deliberating on tourism. This is all about tourism. So this tourism, that's the first you have to identify what is the topic word, what is the whole sentence or the whole statement, what is it all about, which is about tourism. Then now this is the question. The question says, what are the advantages and disadvantages of tourism in the modern world? Then do you think that the benefit of tourism outweighs its drawbacks? So this question is about tourism. Many people do this first step of the process and then write about the topic in general. This is a serious mistake, please, and leads to low mark for tax achievement. So what we need to do now that we know the general topic is to understand exactly what aspect of tourism we are being asked to write about, because there's always a specific. They will write about something. Now, people make a lot of this mistake. They will write about it in general, okay? Then they'll ask you a specific question. They will ask you a specific question. So sometimes you see people, they will tend to be writing about that topic sentence. They'll be talking about advantage and disadvantage of tourism because they know its advantage and disadvantage is it. But when you read the particular question that you're being asked, you understand that there are some aspects they are talking about. Like this one says, what are the advantage and disadvantage of tourism in modern world? So it is more like particularly in modern world, not like tourism, because by the time you're just writing about advantage and disadvantage of tourism, you see that you'll be writing about tourism in modern world and ancient. Okay, 1940 when people used to travel, it might come up. You might write out of. Okay, and that thing, do you think the benefit of tourism outweighs its drawback? Okay, so you have to understand the topic sentence. That is just for you to know what this is all about, and then you also need to know the exact aspect that you're being asked to write. Then the next thing that you're expected to dictate when you're analyzing your work is other keywords. Other keywords in the question tells you the specific topic your essay must be about. Like, a lot of places in the world rely on tourism as a main source of income. So it's more like you're writing about the main source of income. And also, another thing is source of problem. Okay, so that's the major aspect, the keywords that you need to note. By highlighting these words, it's easy to see that you are being asked to write about the conflicting issues of tourism being a main source of income in many places, yes, also being a source of problem. Your essay must only include ideas relevant to this aspect of tourism, okay? You don't need to write out of point. Then the next word you're supposed to note is the instruction words. The instruction words are the question itself. They tell you exactly what to include in your essay. So now the question is saying, this is where the question is. It says, what are the advantages and disadvantages of tourism in modern world? Do you think that the benefit of tourism outweighs its drawbacks? So this is the instruction words. So here are all required to write about. What you are required to write about is advantage of tourism in relation to income generation, disadvantage of tourism in relation to problem it can cause, our opinion as to whether the advantage outweighs the disadvantage. Note the use of synonym, benefits and drawback in the second sentence of the question. Okay, so note that because IELTS is all about synonyms. You have to be ready, open-minded to see synonyms, to identify synonyms. Then the next thing you have to do with your 5 minutes is to generate ideas. The next task is to generate some ideas to write about. There are several different ways to think of ideas. Okay, you can check. We have essay planning on how to generate ideas, and last time we talked about it. You can think about general. Maybe if you're discussing with your friend, you understand, and maybe your friend asks you something like that, just think. You don't need to be doing a lot of brainstorming, but because by the time you're doing brainstorming, you'll be thinking, your brain will be thinking about advanced things. But if you think, okay, what if I'm just discussing with my friend in a coffee shop or maybe a tea shop, you know what, you and your friend, where you prefer going? What if a friend just throws this question at me that, okay, tourism now, what is the problems of tourism? What will you answer your friends? So just see it that way, because it has to be as natural as possible. So I'm going to demonstrate 2 of them for you here. The friend technique, which I'm actually which is suitable for most IELTS essays, and example method, which perfectly fits essay structure too. The friends technique is the method I generally prefer, as it allows you to take a step back from the stress of the exam situation and think more calmly. Here is how it works. Imagine you are with your friend over a cup of coffee and they ask you this question: what are the first thoughts to come into your head? Plan your essay around these ideas. Doing this will help you to come up with simple answers in everyday language rather than straining your brain to think of amazing ideas using high-level language, which isn't necessary. So here are some ideas using the friend technique. Okay, if you think about advantage of tourism as a source of income, you can think of it provides jobs to local people, opportunities for local entrepreneurs, tourist spending boosts both national and local economy, brings improvement in local infrastructures and in facilities which benefit whole community, helps maintain traditions and culture. If you think about the disadvantage of tourism, that's the problems. You can think about, okay, money goes to wealthy business owners, not local people, increased crimes, illegal activities like drugs, more pub and clubs, change the local culture, increase in property values, destruction of natural environment to build hotels, airports, and other facilities, displacement of indigenous people. So there are far too many ideas here to include in the essay of just 250 words. Think up a few, then pick one advantage and one disadvantage that you think you can develop well. So with the example method, on the other hand, you start by thinking of specific examples related to the question. They can come from your own experience or be something you've read or heard about. This example will generate ideas that will become the main point of your essay. It works particularly well for the model question I've selected for the lesson. So we are going to try this structure out. So here are some ideas using example techniques. Like in Thailand, the poor fishing village, now prosperous tourist resort, provide jobs for locals, tourist income spent on improving transport system, electricity supply, telecommunication, and medical facilities, creation of national parks where wildlife is protected. Okay. Then the Venice, home replaced with tourists, accommodation and shops, crowded streets, too narrow for volume of people, lost sense of community, too many tourists, pollution from huge cruise ships, damaged high tides caused by hundreds of tourist boats, Now that we have some ideas, we are almost ready to start writing an Ielts advantage and disadvantage essay. But first, we have one more task to do. Check your vocabularies. Now, if you remember, I taught, for those that have been with me for a long time, I've taught you, you can look out for some words and think about what vocabularies you could use. Think about synonyms and write them out. It's going to help you. And by the time you're using these synonyms, always have it in mind that yes, these synonyms, I can change it, as in it can mean different thing if I use it. So but anytime you're using it, always read the sentence where you started it, if it still came out to mean the same thing with the previous one. So during the planning stage, quickly jot down some vocabularies that come to your mind as you decide what you're going to write about, especially synonyms of keywords. This will save you having to stop and think of right language while you're writing. So write an IELTS advantage and disadvantage essay. We are ready to begin writing our essay. For the first model answer, I'm going to take you step by step through essay structure 2. I'll then give you a model answer for structure 1 for you to compare. Remember, this is what we are talking about. Okay, this is the question we're talking about. And remember that this is the structure we are using, which is structure 2. Now, how to write in introduction, very important. So if you want to write an introduction, there are 3 things that you expect it to do. Paraphrase the question, outline the main idea, and state your opinion. Sometimes the question won't ask you for your opinion. Okay, so our third question asks for our opinion. So our introduction, we have 3 parts. So the first one being paraphrase the question. Start your introduction by paraphrasing the question. So now the question says, a lot of people in the world rely on tourism as a main source of income. Unfortunately, tourism can also be a source of problem if it is not well managed. So how do you paraphrase this? It says, although holidaymakers here is the same thing as tourism. So you can look out for more words you could use instead of tourism. Okay, although holidaymakers contribute hugely to economies of many popular nations. Source of key income. Source of key income here was replaced as contribute hugely to economies. And then the word here is replaced with popular destinations. Then going forward, it said the influx of tourists. So instead of saying tourism again or holidaymakers again, it's now saying the influx of tourists can also cause serious issues. So instead of saying be a source of problem, they say can cause serious issues. So you see how they change every word and it still means the same thing. So this is how you start your essay. Your first sentence should be you paraphrasing the question, writing the question with different words to still mean the same thing. Note my use of synonyms for some of the keywords. It's fine to repeat one of the 2 words if you can't think of suitable synonyms. Above all, your language must sound natural. So I've always been trying for us to sound as natural as possible, still informal, but let it look like it's what you're doing. Because most times they are looking out if you did a cram work. Okay, so try to understand every keyword you're about to insert and let it look as natural as possible. So another thing that will be in your introduction is outline statement. Now we need to add a statement where we outline the main points that we'll be covering in the rest of the essay. That is an advantage of tourism and a disadvantage of tourism. Here are 2 main ideas I've chosen to write. Advantage is poor areas are now prosperous tourist resorts. Disadvantage is displacement of local people. So the outline statement will be like, this essay will demonstrate how tourists can transform economy of poor areas, but we also show that this can lead to such problem as the displacement of local people. Now, this is what you're going to write about, and it's very important that you state it in your introduction. It gives the reader idea of what the introduction is all about. Okay, Normally, if you have any book and you read the instruction, you should have idea of what the book is all about. That's the same thing as your introduction. Okay, so your introduction should be able to give you an idea, should give the examiner an idea of what you're going to write about. Then opinion statements. Remember, that is if the question asked for your opinion. So the opinion statement, the question also asks, this particular question we are solving asks for opinion. So what is our opinion? So whilst now this wise is a very good this thing. It's not all the time while. Please learn to use this most times, okay? It's better. Whilst acknowledging that there are drawbacks, the essay will argue that the advantage of the tourist industries outweighs the disadvantages. Okay, so now our essay, we are of the opinion that the advantage outweighs the disadvantage. So let's bring these three elements together to form our introduction. Our introduction is ready, and our introduction goes like this. Although holidaymakers contribute hugely to the economies of many popular destinations, the influx of tourism can also cause serious issues. This essay will demonstrate how tourism can transform the economy of poor areas, but we also show that this can lead to such problems as displacement of local people. Whilst acknowledging that there are drawbacks, this essay will argue that the advantage of the tourist industry outweighs the disadvantages. So once your examiner reads this, he knows that you are, of course, you gave what advantage can be, what disadvantage can be, and you stated the side you are in. You gave your opinion that, so me, look at my side. I believe that the advantage is more than the disadvantage. So the introduction achieves three important functions. It shows the examiner that you understand the question. It acts as a guide to the examiner as to what your essay is all about. And it also helps to keep you focused and on track as you write. The two ideas in your introduction will become your two main body paragraphs. The first one is poor areas are being prosperous tourist resorts. The second one is not the displacement of local people, which are the advantage and disadvantages stated in the your outline sentence. So how to write main body? We are done with paragraph. How to write main body paragraphs? The main body paragraph in Ielts advantage and disadvantage essays written using structure 2 should contain three things: topic sentence, give an example, explanation, explain the benefits and advantages, then consequence, you state the result. So main body 1, the topic sentence summarizes the main idea of the paragraph. It plays an important role in ensuring that your ideas flow logically from one to the other. It does this by acting as a signpost for what is to come next. This is what the paragraph will be about. So if you maintain a clear development of ideas throughout your essay, you have high mark for task achievement and coherence and cohesion. In this instance, the topic sentence will introduce our first example, for which I've chosen Thailand. So main idea: poor areas are now prosperous tourist resort. An example is Thailand. Now remember, you can always make this up. It shouldn't be actual. You can decide to pick anything as your example. So topic sentence: our country, one country that has experienced a significant economic boost from tourism is Thailand. Next, you must explain, write an explanation sentence that states the main point of your example. So explanation sentence now would be like, over the past 50 years, many of its small fishing villages where people often struggle to make a living has been developed into thriving holiday destinations. So you see how this particular one was conducted. Now, finally, you explain the consequence of the result of the situation. This is where we give an example of one specific advantage. It is better to pick one and develop it than to just add a long list. So the consequence now says, with all the hotels, restaurants, shops, and other tourist facilities that has been developed, there are now enough jobs for everyone, and the general standard of living has greatly increased. Many local people have spotted new business opportunities and become entrepreneurs, which has further diversified the economy. So when you put the three together, you'll be making this body paragraph. So it means in this body paragraph is the topic sentence, which is the advantage we stated, an example of the advantage. Then you example, not more like just maybe example of the country that has experienced that, or example of the place that has experienced that, example of a person that have experienced that. Then you go ahead to explain what happened, and then you give the consequence of what happened. Okay, maybe of course this is advantage, so of course this resulted to something good, you understand, because you are writing it as advantage. Okay, then the main body two now is still the same thing. The idea, this main disadvantage we have for main body two is displacement of local people, and then example we have is very nice. Then first we write the topic sentence to summarize the main ideas. Okay, so the topic sentence says, we started with the example of the place, said in Venice, on the other hand. Okay, most times we have formed the habit of writing on the other hand first. You can decide to put it this way: in Venice, on the other hand, the huge popularity of beautiful canals and stunning architectures with visitors from around the world has had a negative impact on local residents. Now, for the explanation sentence that states the main point of an example, the growing need for tourist accommodation, places to eat and shop has forced many people from their home to make way for their new development. Finally, a specific example is to explain the consequence. So not only have these people suffered by having to move away from their family and friends, but the situation has also resulted in a lost sense of community in the worst affected area. So now, if you put it together, these three parts will also have your second body paragraph. Then your conclusion. The conclusion is a summary of the main points in your essay and can generally be done in a single sentence. You should never introduce new idea. If you are below the minimum 250 words after you've written your conclusion, you can add a prediction or recommendation statement. Our essay is already near the minimum words, so we don't need the extra sentence, but we can learn more about how to write a prediction or recommendation statement for Ielts advantage and disadvantage essays. The conclusion is the easiest sentence in the essay to write, but one of the most important. A good conclusion will neatly end the essay, link all your ideas together, sum up your argument or opinion, answer the question. If you achieve this, you improve your score for both task achievement and coherence and cohesion, which together make up 50% of overall marks. Writing a conclusion will score below, without a conclusion, you will score below than C for task achievement. You can start almost any final paragraph of the Ielts advantage and advantage with the words in conclusion or to conclude. Of course, that will show that yes, this is the conclusion. Now, all you need to do is to briefly summarize the main ideas into one sentence. Here is a top tip: go back and read the introduction to the essay, because this is also a summary of the essay. It outlines what you're going to write about. To create a great conclusion, you simply have to paraphrase the introduction. Paraphrasing simply means writing the introduction in a different way. But please remember that your conclusion should always look shorter than your introduction. So if you look at the introduction here, they say, in conclusion, if you look at the conclusion, it said, in conclusion, although mass tourism can sometimes result in local residents having to be relocated it greatly improves the lives of most people, as well as contributing significantly to the national economy. Hence, the positive effect of developing a tourist industry definitely outweighs the drawbacks. So you see that it still repeated the same thing in the introduction, which is the outline sentence of what the essay will talk about. Now it's repeated it as what the essay talked about, okay? And then it still went back to give the opinion that the development of tourist industries definitely outweighs the drawbacks, which is the opinion that says that the advantage outweighs the disadvantage. So the final essay is like this, and this is approximately 289 words. So you can always listen to this as many times as possible. And then, okay, now let's look at the first structure. We are going to answer this question: advantage, source of income, provide job for local people. Okay, so by the time you look at how the essay is, this is it. This is also how the essay is. Because in this particular one, it's still the same thing as paraphrasing and outline and then giving opinion, if the opinion was sought. Then the introduction is just state the advantage, explain it and give example. Second one, state the advantage, explain it and give example, and then the conclusion. Okay, so whichever one you think works for you out of these two structures can actually be used. So if you have any question, what we've talked about, you can actually ask your question now. It's time for questions. If you understood it, it's fine. If you have question, it's fine. You can ask the question. Please unmute yourself. You can ask your question, unmute yourself and ask question. Mr. Google, I have asked you to unmute. Okay? I've asked you to unmute. You can unmute yourself and ask questions now.
Okay, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
All right. My question is concerning the example that was given to us. You know, the first and second paragraph more like started with example using Thailand, you know, talking about Thailand and what happened in Thailand before talking about the advantage of tourism. Can we start it like that in some places? Because the structure, when you talk about the structure, we're like your outline sentence before you talk about the consequences. Then should we start with an example, or should we put the example towards the end?
Okay.
I'm having a little bit of confusion. Yeah.
Normally, you know that normally IELTS, different IELTS writing questions have different suitable structures. So
Okay.
now I've shared two structures with you. And the thing is, if you're using the example method, okay, so that means you're giving example. Look at the kind of idea that is presented here. Poor areas are now prosperous and now prosperous tourist resorts. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
We want to develop this particular thing very well, if we want to give a good explanation about this, you should be able to give an example for it to be well suited. Okay, this is how the example is, and that is how this example was given. Okay, let me bring it. Topic sentence, explanation. Okay, so look at the topic sentence. This you still state your topic sentence, and then you give an example and then develop it. Like one country that has experienced a significant economic boost from tourists is Thailand. Okay.
Okay.
And over the
Okay.
50 years, many of the small fishing villages where people often struggle to make a living has been developed into thriving holiday destination. Then going forward with all the hotel, blah, 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 you understand? Then later in the last sentence, say many local people have spotted new business opportunity, which is what this is all about. So if you remember when I talked about PEEL, PEEL, which is state your point, example, explain and link. It is almost it's almost the same thing here. In fact, it's the same thing here. The first thing is outlining, that's your point, which is what was stated here about okay, topic sentence. One country has experienced a significant economic boost from tourism, which is Thailand. That is the point. Then the next one is explanation, which is Thailand, that you went ahead to talk about over the 50 years, many of the small fishing villages, you understand, blah, blah, blah. Then the was explaining further with all the hotel, restaurants, and everything. You went ahead to explain further, and then linking it back to what you're talking about now. Many local people have spotted new business opportunities and become entrepreneurs, which has further diversified the economy. So you can see it as field method. You can also see it as maybe points, example, explanation, and maybe I think consequence, the way they put it here, the way it was put here.
Okay.
Alternatively, you can decide to do the normal way that it was being done. That's the first structure, which is state the advantage, explain example, and
Mm,
then the next one, advantage, explain example. But it's
yeah.
always good that you link. That linking will make it so that it doesn't sound like you are going off point. Because if this particular thing wasn't linked now, if I decide to stop here now, I decide to stop here. Let me show you. Maybe I did not write all these ones now. I decide to just, after my explanation and example, I stop. It's going to look like I'm talking about hotels, restaurants, facilities. You understand? Most
Yeah.
times, by the time you're giving an example, you might look off. But by the time you decide to link it back to what you are talking about, it becomes clearer. Don't know if you are. Did I answer your question?
Yes. Yes. Thank you very much. Thank
Okay. Is there another question?
My hello, hello. Good evening.
I can hear
Good
you.
evening. I have a
Good
question.
evening. I can hear you, ma. Go ahead.
Okay. I was thinking that since we need to relate the example to what we to what we our own personal experience, that using Thailand, I don't know how using Thailand is inappropriate for us that are not living there. I don't know. That's is it not?
You
Can we
can
use
decide
our own country?
to link it to
you.
your personal experience or your country or something. Eh?
Okay.
You can decide to
Okay.
link it. So this is just a sample.
Yes.
Okay. Don't link it with Thailand
Um,
or somewhere that is not your country. You can decide to link it with your country or your this thing. But what I mean by that is it should be like when I keep saying it should be as natural as possible. Because when sometimes people post something that looks odd, that looks like you understand it was copy, it doesn't look so natural. So it should look as natural as possible. Say natural as possible. It should look like yes, it is you that is writing it. should look like yes, you are the one communicate. That is not a crammed work, or maybe you want to
Yes.
you understand that you crammed something that somebody wrote and then you brought it. So this one is still a good one, because if it should be as you should present it as a personal opinion. And like, I will even add, if you're presenting your example, try to make it more realistic. So if you want to say something that happened in your country, you can say for example is maybe the tsunami that happened in Nigeria in I know that that doesn't happen in Nigeria, though I'm just giving an example. Maybe in the year 2000. So make it look like yes, you actually know when this thing happened. It is you. It's not like what someone told you or something. So I want you, because you're the one writing, and you have to be as natural as possible. You have to make it your own. You have to make flow. Let it be you. Right? Let it look like yes, you're communicating with the examiner. That's just the major thing, the major point. So just learn the sample, not the thing Google that is there. Just learn the structure of the sample. That's just it.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other question? So we are going to practice advantage and disadvantage essay. And then the last essay we are here to do is the direct question essay. I think we just round up the essay writing next week. And then we move to I think the next module sorry, is speaking. So we should be rounding up Ielts writing by Tuesday, and then start up with speaking till that next Tuesday. So please try to practice all that we've done. The opinion essay, discussion essay, advantage and disadvantage essay, and then the one we'll do later, which is direct which is that's direct question essay. So you try to practice everything and send as many as possible. You people should give me work, please. I need work. So and right, those have not bettered their own. I'll definitely do that. I'll definitely do that. Okay. If you have questions, please don't forget to drop on the group. I always be there to take your questions too. All right. Good night, everyone.
Okay, good night.